chosen one. Are you about to throw away 70 years of answered prayer in the next 24 hours? Have you survived everything, the heartbreak, the loss, the sleepless nights crying out to God, only to sabotage your own miracle on the very last day before it arrives? What if I told you that right now, on November 30th, you are standing on the edge of either your greatest breakthrough or your most devastating mistake? Chosen one, stop. Right where you are. Stop scrolling. Stop moving. Stop breathing for just 1 second. If you are hearing my voice on November 30th, this is not coincidence. This is divine interruption. Heaven itself has pulled you into this moment because you are about to make one mistake so quiet, so invisible, so seemingly harmless that it will destroy the blessing God has been preparing for your entire life. Listen to me carefully. You didn't stumble onto this message. You were summoned here. You've waited decades for December. Not the month on the calendar, but the season. The season when God finally says, now. After all you've endured, after all you've survived, after all those years when I seemed silent, now I release everything. But here's what's breaking my heart right now. Here's what's shaking me to my core as I speak these words over you. The enemy knows your breakthrough is scheduled for December 1st, and he has 24 hours, just 24 hours, to make you sabotage it yourself. Why did this message find you today? Why November 30th? Why you? Because something massive is about to shift in your life, and hell is terrified. Before I go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead. Now listen carefully. If something in your chest is already stirring, if your hands are trembling holding this device, if tears are forming and you don't even know why yet, type these 2 words in the comments right now. I'm listening. Because what I'm about to reveal will explain why your entire life has been leading to this single moment. Why every closed door was actually protection. Why every delay was divine positioning. Why you're still alive when others didn't make it. The breakthrough is already released, beloved. It's already in motion. God signed the paperwork. Heaven stamped it approved. Angels are already positioning the pieces. But one wrong move in the next 24 hours, one silent mistake on November 30th can erase everything. Are you ready to discover what that mistake is? Why does your hardest battle always come the night before your biggest blessing? Why does hell throw everything at you when you're one step away from breakthrough? Why does November 30th feel heavier than any other day you've lived through this year? Listen to me, chosen one. There's a pattern in Scripture that most preachers won't tell you about because it's too raw, too real, too terrifying for Sunday morning services. But you need to hear it right now because your life depends on it. Every single time God prepared to release a promise, the enemy launched his most vicious attack the night before. Not a month before, not a week before, the night before. Think about it. The night before the Red Sea parted, the Israelites were trapped with Pharaoh's army charging toward them. The night before David killed Goliath, he was a forgotten shepherd boy while his brothers mocked him. The night before Jesus rose from the dead, the disciples were hiding in terror, convinced everything they believed was a lie. The pattern is unmistakable. The darker the night, the closer the dawn. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at 3 a.m. praying for people just like you. You didn't face your hardest battles at 20. You didn't fight your fiercest wars at 30 or 40. No, beloved. They hit you in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. When you lost the people who knew your name. When your body started betraying you. When the world decided you were invisible. When your children stopped calling. When your bank account couldn't stretch far enough. When you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. You thought those battles were random. You thought that suffering was just part of getting old. But what if I told you that every single attack you've endured in your later years was specifically designed to break you before December? What if the enemy has been studying your weaknesses for decades, waiting for this exact moment to deploy his final assault? November 30th is the night before the dawn, the battlefield before Bethlehem, the cross before the resurrection. And right now, as I speak these words over you, he's coming. Not with trumpets and announcements, not with obvious temptations you'd recognize and resist. No, he's coming quietly, subtly, disguised as something so innocent you won't even see it as warfare. You know that sudden loneliness that hit you this morning? That wasn't just your feelings, that was a targeted strike. You know that strange fatigue weighing down your bones, even though you slept 8 hours? That's not just age. That's spiritual exhaustion being weaponized against you. You know those financial worries that suddenly feel more crushing today than they did yesterday? That's not coincidence. That's calculated interference. The enemy knows something you're just beginning to understand. He knows that tomorrow, December 1st, shifts everything. He knows that what God is releasing on the first day of December will make up for every year you've spent in lack. He knows that your children who stopped calling will suddenly reach out. He knows that the provision you've been praying for will manifest. He knows that the purpose you thought had expired is about to be activated, and he has exactly 24 hours to stop it. But here's the part that should terrify you and awaken you at the same time. The battle isn't around you. It's not attacking your circumstances. It's not coming after your health or your finances or your relationships. Those are decoys, distractions. The real warfare is aimed at your decision-making tonight. Because the mistake that destroys December blessings isn't something you do wrong, it's something you do right at the wrong time. It's something that looks like obedience, but is actually sabotage. It's something that feels spiritual, but is actually a trap designed specifically for November 30th. Think about Eve in the garden. The fruit wasn't poison. It looked good. It was pleasant to the eyes. It was desirable for gaining wisdom. Everything about it seemed right. But the timing was wrong. The source was wrong. The motive was disguised. Think about Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of stew. He was hungry. The food was real. His need was legitimate. But that one decision, in a moment of weakness, cost him everything God had prepared for his future. Think about the Israelites at the edge of the Promised Land. They'd survived Egypt. They'd crossed the Red Sea. They'd endured 40 years in the wilderness. They were one step away from everything God promised. But 10 spies brought back a bad report, and fear made them retreat. That one decision on the edge of blessing cost an entire generation their destiny. You are standing on that same edge right now. Right now. November 30th is your edge moment. Everything you've survived, everything you've endured, everything you've believed for has led to this single day. And the enemy knows it. You want to know why you're feeling emotional right now, why tears are forming, why something in your chest is trembling. Because your spirit recognizes warfare when it sees it. Your soul knows you're standing at a crossroads. Your inner being understands that the next 24 hours will determine whether you walk into December carrying blessing or regret. The question that will haunt you for the rest of your life if you don't listen carefully is this: what is the one mistake that looks like wisdom but destroys what's coming? There is one mistake, just one, that steals December's blessing faster than any sin, any weakness, any demonic attack you could imagine. And here's what terrifies me about it. This mistake doesn't look like a mistake. It doesn't feel dangerous. It doesn't trigger any alarm bells in your spirit. In fact, it feels righteous. It feels wise. It feels like exactly what a good Christian should do. That's what makes it lethal. Listen to me, chosen one. I've watched this happen for 30 years. I've seen it destroy breakthroughs in the lives of the most faithful believers. People who prayed for decades. People who tithed when they couldn't afford groceries. People who served God with everything they had. And then, November 30th arrives. 24 hours before their miracle. And they make one move, one single move that cancels everything. They lose their peace overnight. The clarity they had yesterday, gone. The joy that sustained them through October, vanished. The momentum they were building, dead stop. The unshakable faith they carried for months, suddenly full of holes. And it all happens in one moment. One decision. One innocent-looking choice on November 30th. Picture this with me. You've been running a marathon for 11 months straight. Your legs are screaming. Your lungs are burning. Your body wants to quit. But you keep going because you can see the finish line. You can hear the crowd cheering. You can feel victory in your bones. 11 months of pushing, 11 months of believing, 11 months of refusing to give up. And then 3 steps from the finish line you trip. You fall. You watch everyone else cross while you're lying on the ground, staring at the sky, wondering what just happened. That's what this mistake does. You know what haunts me most? It always happens on November 30th. Always. Like clockwork. Like the enemy circled this date on hell's calendar and said, "This is when we strike." It always happens at night. When you're tired. When your guard is down. When you're too exhausted to think clearly. And it always happens to the chosen ones. Not the casual Christians. Not the Sunday-only believers. The warriors. The intercessors. The ones who've been in the furnace and came out refined. Why them? Because they're the ones with December miracles scheduled. Job knew this feeling. He had everything: wealth, family, health, respect. Then in one day, one single day, messengers kept coming. Your oxen were stolen. Your servants were killed. Your children are dead. Your body is covered in boils. One day. Multiple catastrophes, all perfectly timed. Job 1:13 says, "One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, one day, that's all it took for everything to shift." But here's what most people miss about Job's story. The attacks didn't come random. They came strategic. They came when Job was doing everything right, when he was praying for his children, when he was living righteously, when he was exactly where God wanted him. The greatest attacks come right before the greatest breakthroughs. You think you're safe because you've made it to November 30th? You think the battle is over because December is 24 hours away? That's exactly when the enemy intensifies. Listen to what Jesus said in Luke 22:31. "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat." Satan asked permission. He was strategic. He was waiting for the right moment. And that moment? It was right before Jesus' greatest victory, the resurrection. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on random days. He saves his best attacks for the final hours before your breakthrough. So, let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. What if you're feeling peaceful right now, not because you're safe, but because you're about to walk into a trap? What if the calmness you're experiencing is actually spiritual sedation before the ambush? What if the enemy wants you relaxed on November 30th? I'm talking to the 78-year-old grandmother who's been praying for her prodigal son for 40 years. You can feel it, can't you? Something's different this time. Something's shifting. He's going to come home in December. You know it in your bones. But November 30th is when the phone will ring. And what you say in that conversation will either release the miracle or delay it another decade. I'm talking to the 82-year-old widower who's been believing God for financial breakthrough since your wife passed. The check is coming. The provision is on its way. It's scheduled for December. But November 30th is when someone will offer you a shortcut, a compromise, a business opportunity that seems heaven-sent but is actually hell-designed to disqualify you right before your miracle arrives. I'm talking to every chosen one who's been holding on by a thread, believing that December is your month of overflow. You're right, it is. The breakthrough is real. The miracle is approved. Heaven has already released it. But you're closer than you think, which means the enemy is closer than he appears. You see, Goliath didn't mock Israel randomly. He showed up every morning and every evening for 40 days. 40 days of intimidation, 40 days of threats, and on the 41st day, That's when David showed up with 5 smooth stones and ended it. The breakthrough comes right after the final attack. So here's what I need you to understand. November 30th isn't just another day. It's the final test before your promise. It's the last question on the exam. It's the ultimate trap set by an enemy who knows he's about to lose you forever. And the mistake that destroys your December blessing, it's already being positioned in your path. Right now. Today. The question is, will you see it coming? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. November 30th isn't just another day on your calendar. It's not just the last Thursday of the month. It's not just 24 hours before December begins. November 30th is heaven's final exam. You see, while you've been counting down the days to December, thinking about Christmas, thinking about family gatherings, thinking about the new year ahead, something cosmic has been happening in the spiritual realm. God has been watching, recording, measuring your faithfulness in the final hours. Because here's what most believers don't understand, and this is going to cut deep. God doesn't judge your year by January 1st. He judges it by how you finish, by what you do when the finish line is in sight, by whether you stay vigilant when everyone else is celebrating early. Think about this. The Bible is filled with people who lost everything in the final hour. Saul was anointed king, celebrated by all of Israel, but he couldn't wait for Samuel. He got impatient in the last moments before battle and offered the sacrifice himself. 1 Samuel 13 tells us that impatience cost him his kingdom, his entire legacy, his children's future. All gone because he couldn't hold steady for one more hour. Or what about Moses? This man walked with God for 80 years. He split the Red Sea. He brought water from rocks. He spoke face to face with the Almighty. But in Numbers 20, in one moment of frustration at the end of his journey, he struck the rock instead of speaking to it. One moment, one mistake. And God said, "You will not enter the promised land." 80 years of faithfulness, cancelled by one final hour failure. Now, I need you to hear what I'm really saying here. I'm not talking about losing your salvation. I'm talking about losing your position, your promotion, your breakthrough that's been delayed for decades. Heaven resets your spiritual calendar at midnight on December 1st. But what you do on November 30th determines what you carry into that reset. You think you're just finishing out the month? No. You're sitting for your final exam. Look at Daniel. This man prayed 3 times a day for 70 years. 70 years. And do you know when the enemy attacked him? At the end. When he was old. When everyone thought he'd already proven himself. Daniel 6 shows us that jealous men tried to destroy him precisely because his consistency threatened them. But here's what saved Daniel. He didn't change his pattern on the day of the test. When the decree went out forbidding prayer, when it would have been so easy to say, "I'll just wait this out, I'll take a break for 30 days. Daniel went to his window at the same time, faced Jerusalem, and prayed anyway. The lion's den wasn't punishment for Daniel, it was his graduation ceremony. You're being tested on November 30th the same way. Will you maintain your prayer life when the blessing is already on its way? Will you keep your faith when you're exhausted from the journey? Will you guard your mouth when everyone around you is complaining about how long it's taken? Because here's the spiritual law that most people miss. Blessings require vigilance. Breakthrough requires consistency. Promises require protection. God promotes those who stay awake in the final hours, not those who relax too soon. Think about David. Before he was crowned king, he spent years running from Saul, years in caves, years of being hunted like an animal. And in 1 Samuel 24, David had the perfect opportunity to kill Saul. His men told him, "This is the day the Lord spoke about. Take him out, your suffering is over." But David refused. Even though Saul had been trying to murder him, even though he was exhausted from running, even though it would have been so easy to justify, David said, "I will not stretch out my hand against the Lord's anointed." Why? Because David understood something profound. The final test isn't about what you can take, it's about what you refuse to take. It's about what you won't do, even when you have every right to do it. Let me ask you something that's going to hit hard. How many times have you gotten within inches of your breakthrough, only to sabotage it yourself? How many times have you waited years for an open door, only to walk through it with the wrong attitude? How many times has God been about to release your blessing, but you couldn't control your tongue for one more day? November 30th is your chance to break that pattern. This is your moment to prove that you've learned from every closed door, every delay, every disappointment. But I need to tell you the most shocking truth of all. Spiritual blessings aren't destroyed by the enemy. They're surrendered by the chosen. The devil can't steal what God has already released. But you can forfeit it. You can walk away from it. You can disqualify yourself in the final hour by making one careless decision, speaking one bitter word, or giving up one day too soon. Anna, the prophetess, understood this. Luke 2 tells us she was 84 years old, serving in the temple day and night with fasting and prayer. 84. Most people would have retired decades earlier. But Anna stayed faithful. She kept showing up. She kept believing. And because she didn't quit in her final season, she became one of the first people to see the Messiah with her own eyes. Your December miracle is that close. Your breakthrough is that near. But the question that will determine everything is this. What are you going to do on November 30th? Are you going to coast into December, or are you going to cross the finish line with the same fire you started with? Because, beloved, the mistake that destroys breakthrough isn't dramatic, it's subtle, and if you don't know what it is, you're about to make it in the next 24 hours. Now I'm going to tell you something that might save your entire destiny. The mistake that destroys December blessings isn't what you think it is. It's not doubt, it's not sin, it's not even unbelief. The mistake is this: letting your guard down the moment you think you're safe. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, on November 30th, you're standing at the finish line. You can see December. You can almost taste the breakthrough. 11 months of warfare are behind you. 11 months of crying out to God. 11 months of holding on when everything in you wanted to let go. And because you can see the finish line, something dangerous is happening inside you. You're relaxing, your shoulders are dropping, your prayers are getting shorter, your worship is becoming optional. You're thinking, I made it, I survived, now I can rest. That thought right there? That's the trap. The enemy doesn't attack you in January when you're fresh and fighting. He doesn't come for you in July when you're still alert. He waits, he watches, he studies you for 11 months. And then, on November 30th, when you think the battle is over, he strikes. 1 Peter 5-8 warns us, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." Notice it doesn't say, seeking whom he may attack. It says, seeking whom he may devour. That's complete destruction, total consumption, and it happens to those who stop being vigilant. You know what kills more soldiers than battle? It's what happens after the battle. It's when they think they're safe, when they lower their weapons, when they stop watching the perimeter. That's when the enemy ambushed them. You didn't survive 11 months of spiritual warfare to die at the doorway of your blessing. But here's what I need you to understand about November 30th. This isn't just another day. This is the crack in the door. You see, the enemy only needs one opening. One moment of weakness. 1 hour of letting your guard down. One conversation where you replay old pain. One evening where you let loneliness speak louder than God's promises. Think about Nehemiah. He spent months rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, stone by stone, day after day, fighting enemies, dodging arrows, never resting. And then, right at the end, when the wall was almost complete, his enemies sent him a message. "Come, let us meet together." Nehemiah 6-2. It sounded innocent, it sounded like peace. But Nehemiah knew better. He responded, "I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down." Why would he come down when he was so close to finishing? Because that's exactly when the enemy strikes. When you're exhausted. When you're almost done. And I'm watching too many of you right now making Nehemiah's mistake in reverse. You're coming down from the wall. You're accepting the invitation to revisit old memories. You're letting your mind wander back to the pain God already healed. You're having conversations with people God already removed from your life. For you seniors listening right now, I need to speak directly to your heart. The enemy knows your weak spots. He knows that on November 30th, when you're alone in that house, when the grandchildren haven't called, when your body aches and the silence feels heavy, he knows exactly what memories to bring up. He'll remind you of what you lost. He'll replay the funeral you attended. He'll whisper about the years you wasted. He'll make you question if God really heard all those prayers. He'll make loneliness sound louder than the voice of the Almighty. But hear me clearly. When you let those thoughts run wild, when you let regret speak, when you revisit pain that God already buried, you're not just having a bad day. You're opening a door, and the enemy only needs a crack. Jesus said in Matthew 12:29, "How can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man?" You are that strong man. You've been strong for 11 months. But if you let your guard down on November 30th, if you stop praying intensely, if you let old habits creep back in, you're binding yourself. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've been carrying a glass of water for 11 months. It's full to the brim. You haven't spilled a drop. You've walked carefully, stepped cautiously, never took your eyes off that glass. And now, you're 10 feet from the table where you can finally set it down. 10 feet. But because you can see the table, because you know you're almost there, you stop paying attention. You start looking around. You get distracted. And in that one careless moment, you stumble. The glass falls. 11 months of careful walking, destroyed in 1 second of letting your guard down. That's what November 30th is. It's the 10 feet before the table. It's the doorway before the promise. It's the last night before your December. And I need you to hear this prophetic word that's burning in my spirit right now. Your breakthrough isn't waiting for December. It's waiting for your vigilance on November 30th. God has already released your blessing. It's already in motion. Angels have already been dispatched. Doors have already been unlocked. But there's one requirement. You must stay alert until midnight. Not until you feel like it. Not until you're comfortable. Until midnight. Until November 30th becomes December 1st. Until the enemy's window of opportunity closes forever. So, what does that mean for you today? Now, listen to me, chosen one. You cannot walk into December carrying the chaos of November. You cannot step into your breakthrough dragging the weight of what tried to break you. What I'm about to give you isn't theory. This isn't Sunday school. These are 5 spiritual disciplines that will determine whether you wake up on December 1st in victory or in defeat. And I need you to understand something that most preachers won't tell you. God isn't measuring your perfection tonight. He's watching your posture. He's not counting how many Bible verses you quote. He's observing whether you're willing to guard what he's about to release. Discipline 1. Protect your peace. Right now, someone is trying to pull you into an argument. Maybe it's your daughter who never calls except when she needs something. Maybe it's that neighbor who always has something negative to say. Maybe it's your own mind, replaying that conversation from 1987 for the 10,000th time. Stop. Just stop. Proverbs 4:23 doesn't suggest, it commands. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life, not your money, not your health, your heart, your peace. Because what you carry in your spirit tonight is what you'll carry into tomorrow. You think that argument matters. You think proving yourself right is more important than protecting your breakthrough. The enemy is baiting you. He's dangling that conversation, that text message, that phone call in front of you like a fisherman dangling a worm. And if you bite, you'll spend the next 24 hours hooked on a fence instead of positioned for blessing. I'm talking to the grandmother right now whose son just said something that cut deep. I'm talking to the grandfather whose wife just brought up that thing from 30 years ago. Walk away. Not because you're weak, because you're wise. Not because you don't have a right to respond, because you have something more valuable to protect. Your peace is the container for your miracle, and a cracked container cannot hold what heaven is about to pour. Discipline. 2. Guard your atmosphere. Turn off that television. I said turn it off. You cannot spend the next 18 hours watching news about wars, disasters, and chaos and expect to receive what God has wrapped in glory. You cannot flood your living room with murder mysteries, hospital dramas, and crime shows and wonder why your spirit feels heavy. Job 22:28 declares, "You will also decree a thing, and it will be established for you, and light will shine on your ways." But how can light shine when you've invited darkness to sit in your favorite chair? I'm not being religious, I'm being strategic. The atmosphere around you right now is either pulling heaven down or pushing it away. That phone call with your sister who only calls to complain, postpone it. That friend who always leaves you feeling drained, tell them you'll call back next week. That habit of scrolling through social media, looking at everyone else's blessings while feeling sorry for yourself, put the phone down. You have 18 hours to create an atmosphere that attracts what you've been praying for. Your living room needs to become a landing strip for angels, not a waiting room for worry. Discipline. 3. Seal your spirit. Now, I'm going to give you something you can remember. Something simple but powerful. Before you go to bed tonight, before you close your eyes, I want you to pray these 3 lines. Don't add to them. Don't make them complicated. Just speak them with everything you have. Father, seal my spirit from sabotage. Guard my December from November's attacks. I receive what you've prepared, and I reject what the enemy has planned. That's it. 3 lines. Psalm 91:11 promises, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." But you have to invite that protection. You have to verbally decree it over your life. The enemy is listening tonight. He's watching to see if you're going to leave yourself spiritually exposed or if you're going to lock the door. This prayer is your deadbolt. This prayer is your security system. This prayer tells hell that you're not playing games with your breakthrough. Discipline. 4. Focus your words. From this moment until midnight, I need you to repeat this declaration every time doubt whispers, every time fear knocks, every time your mind tries to convince you that nothing's going to change. Say it out loud. My December is sealed. My blessing is protected. My spirit is vigilant. Proverbs 18:21 warns us, death and life are in the power of the tongue. You are not just speaking words, you are prophesying your future. You are not just making statements, you are setting spiritual law into motion. Stop saying, "I hope something happens." Start declaring, "My breakthrough is already in motion." Stop whispering, "Maybe this time." Start announcing, "My time is now." Your mouth has authority tonight that it won't have tomorrow morning. Use it. Discipline. 5. Stay spiritually awake until midnight. I'm not asking you to stay physically awake, though some of you will. I'm asking you to stay mentally vigilant, spiritually alert. Don't let your guard down just because the clock is ticking toward December. The enemy does his best work in the final hour. Mark 14:38 records Jesus saying, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Even symbolically, even in your mind, stay awake. Stay aware, stay ready, because tonight, God is watching your posture, not your perfection. He's not asking you to be sinless. He's asking you to be serious. He's not demanding that you perform religious rituals. He's requiring that you protect what he's releasing. The question burning in heaven right now is this: will you guard your breakthrough, or will you gamble it away in the final hours? Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret lived in a small apartment in Queens for 43 years. Same building, same neighbors who stopped asking how she was doing, same view of the brick wall across the alley. For 43 years, she prayed the same prayer every single night. God, let me see my son one more time before I die. Her son left when he was 19, angry, bitter, blaming her for everything that went wrong in his life. That was 32 years ago. 32 years of silence. 32 years of birthday cards returned unopened. 32 years of wondering if he was even alive. But Margaret never stopped praying, never stopped believing, never stopped setting an extra plate at Thanksgiving dinner, just in case. Last November, something shifted. She felt it in her spirit. That knowing you can't explain to people who've never walked with God through the valley. She knew that December was going to be different. That this December, after 3 decades of waiting, her prayers were finally going to be answered. November 29th came. She could barely sleep. Her heart was racing with anticipation. Tomorrow, she whispered to God. Tomorrow everything changes. But on November 30th, something happened that destroyed everything. Her neighbor knocked on her door. Mrs. Chen from 4B. Margaret, I need to borrow $200. My grandson's in trouble. I'll pay you back next week, I promise. Margaret looked at that $200, her last $200, until her Social Security check came on December 3rd. And in that moment, a thought whispered in her mind, "You've given enough. You've sacrificed enough. You've been generous your whole life, and look where it got you, alone, forgotten. It's time to think about yourself for once." So, she said no. She closed the door. She kept her $200. December 1st arrived. Her phone rang at 2 p.m., unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. It was her son, calling from a rehab center in Pennsylvania. "Mom," he said, voice shaking, "I've been sober for 90 days, and yesterday, November 30th, something happened. I was sitting in group therapy, and the counselor asked us to think about one person we'd hurt the most. And Mom, all I could see was your face. He was coming home. He wanted to see her, but he had no money for the bus ticket. It was $200 from Scranton to New York. $200. The exact amount she'd refused to give Mrs. Chen the day before. Margaret tried everything. She called the rehab center back. She begged them to put him on the phone again. But he'd already left. No forwarding number, no address, just gone. Again. She never heard from him again. One decision, November 30th. One moment of holding back when God asked her to let go. Dear one, do you feel that? That ache in your chest right now? That's not just sadness for Margaret. That's recognition. Because somewhere in your spirit, you know you're standing at your own November 30th moment. You've been strong for everybody, haven't you? Your children who took and never gave back. Your spouse who left you to face old age alone. Your church that forgot your name the moment you couldn't serve anymore. You've been the shoulder everyone cried on, while your own tears fell in silence at 3 a.m. when nobody was watching. But tonight, right now, God is whispering something that's going to shatter every wall you've built around your wounded heart. Let me be strong for you. Just this once, just for December. Let me fight this battle. Let me provide this miracle. Let me prove that I never forgot your name. You think you're too old for breakthrough? Listen to me. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Moses was 80 when he split seas. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age is not a barrier, beloved. It's a qualification. Because God doesn't trust his greatest miracles to the untested. He doesn't hand breakthrough to people who've never been broken. He doesn't give December blessings to souls who haven't survived November warfare. But here's what's shaking me right now. Here's what's burning in my spirit as I speak over your life. You will not lose December's blessing because of November's mistake. Not on my watch. Not while there's still breath in your lungs and fire in your spirit. God didn't keep you alive through the heart attack that should have killed you, through the depression that almost won, through the loneliness that screamed for you to give up. He didn't preserve you through all of that just to let you stumble on the last day before your miracle arrives. You are not Margaret. You will not repeat her story, because unlike her, you're hearing this warning. You're receiving this revelation. You're being positioned to avoid the trap that's been set for November 30th. But I need you to understand something that will determine everything that happens in the next 24 hours. The mistake isn't always what you think it is. It's not the big, obvious sins. It's the subtle, silent surrenders, the small moments when you choose fear over faith, the quiet decisions when you pick self-protection over divine instruction, and the enemy is counting on you not recognizing it until it's too late. So, what is this mistake? What is this one silent sabotage that could cost you everything God has prepared? Now that you understand why you're here, let me tell you what's really happening to you right now. And I need you to pay attention, because what I'm about to reveal will explain the weight you've been feeling in your chest for the last 72 hours. There are 3 shadows that descend upon chosen ones on November 30th. Not coincidences, not random feelings. Shadows, spiritual assignments sent to sabotage your breakthrough before December 1st arrives. The first shadow is the shadow of weariness. You woke up this morning and something felt different, didn't it? A heaviness settled over your shoulders that wasn't there yesterday. Your bones feel older today. Your spirit feels tired in a way that 8 hours of sleep can't fix. You look at your morning coffee and think, I don't know if I have the strength for another day. Listen to me carefully, beloved. That exhaustion didn't come from your body. It came from the enemy. He knows that tired people quit. He knows that weary souls stop believing. He knows that if he can make you too exhausted to fight for one more day, just one more day, you'll miss the breakthrough that's scheduled for tomorrow. Isaiah 40:31 promises us, But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. But did you catch the condition? They that wait. Not they that quit on November 30th. Not they that give up 24 hours before the miracle. They that wait. The enemy is whispering in your ear right now, you're too old for this. You're too tired. Just let it go. But that weariness is not yours to carry. It's a weapon. A shadow designed to make you lay down your sword the night before the victory. You've survived 70, 80, 90 years of battles. You've buried spouses. You've raised children who broke your heart. You've watched your body betray you one joint at a time. And now, right now, on the last day before your breakthrough, the enemy sends exhaustion to make you quit. No, not today, not on my watch. But there's a second shadow, and this one is even more dangerous. The shadow of memory. Have you noticed something strange happening over the last few days? Old mistakes are resurfacing. Things you thought you'd buried 20 years ago are suddenly knocking on the door of your mind. That sin from 1987, that failure from your 40s, that moment of weakness you've repented for 1,000 times. What you thought you buried comes knocking. Why now? Why on November 30th do all your past failures suddenly flood back with crystal clarity? Because the enemy knows something about human psychology that most people don't understand. If he can make you feel unworthy tonight, you won't reach for the blessing tomorrow. Listen to what the Apostle Paul declared in Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Now, not yesterday, not 20 years ago, now. Which means every memory the enemy is throwing at you tonight is a lie. Not about what happened, but about who you are today. You think those memories are coming from your mind? They're not. They're coming from the accuser of the brethren, and Revelation 12:10 tells us he accuses you day and night before our God. But here's what breaks the enemy's power. The same verse says he is cast down, past tense, already defeated. So, when that shame tries to convince you that you don't deserve what God has prepared, when that regret whispers that you're too stained for blessing, when that memory screams that you've disqualified yourself, you tell it the truth. I am not who I was. I am who Christ says I am, and December 1st is mine. But there's a third shadow. And for many of you watching this right now, this is the one that hits deepest. The shadow of isolation. It's November 30th, and the loneliness feels louder tonight than it has in months. You're sitting in that same chair where your spouse used to sit. You're eating dinner at a table that used to hold laughter and now holds only silence. Your phone hasn't rung in 3 days. Your children are busy with their own lives. Your grandchildren are growing up on screens you don't understand. And in this moment, the enemy whispers his most seductive lie. You're alone. Nobody remembers you. You don't matter anymore. Dear one, let me tell you something that will shatter that shadow into 1,000 pieces. The same night Jesus was betrayed, the same night he faced the cross, he went to Gethsemane. And even though his disciples were right there, he was alone. Matthew 26-40 records his words. What? Could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Even the Son of God experienced the shadow of isolation on his darkest night. But that isolation wasn't abandonment. It was appointment. Because sometimes God allows you to feel alone so you'll finally understand that he's been with you all along. Sometimes he lets everyone else's voice go silent so you can finally hear his. You're not forgotten, beloved. You're focused on. You're not overlooked. You're overseen by the Almighty himself. And this loneliness you feel tonight, it's not proof that God has left you. It's proof that something so sacred is about to happen that he's cleared the room of every distraction. These 3 shadows, weariness, memory, and isolation, they're not random feelings, they are coordinated attacks. Strategic strikes designed for one purpose, to make you surrender on November 30th so you'll miss what December 1st holds. But now you know, now you see them for what they are, not truths about your life, but lies about your destiny. The shadows are exposed. But there's still one question burning in your mind right now. What is the actual mistake? What is the one thing I must not do in the next 24 hours? That's what we're about to uncover. And what I'm about to tell you will change everything. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. There is something happening in the spiritual realm that most believers will never understand. Something so precise, so calculated, so divinely orchestrated that missing it could cost you everything God has been preparing. There is a 7-minute window before midnight on November 30th. 7 minutes, not 6, not 8, 7, the number of completion, the number of divine perfection. And in those 7 minutes, heaven looks at you one last time before the month turns. Let that sink into your spirit right now. Heaven is watching what you do with those final 7 minutes. You think midnight is just when the clock strikes 12. You think it's just the end of one day and the start of another. No, beloved. Midnight is transitional. Midnight is the hinge between what was and what will be. Midnight is when the spiritual realm shifts, when angels change positions, when God's plans either activate or abort based on one thing, your posture. What you think in that moment matters. What you declare in that moment matters. What you believe in that moment matters. Let me show you something that will shake you to your core. Every major breakthrough in Scripture happened at midnight. Not in the morning when you're fresh and optimistic. Not in the afternoon when the sun is shining. At midnight, in the darkest hour, in the moment of transition. The Red Sea opened at night. Think about that. Moses stood there with 2 million terrified Israelites behind him and the most powerful army in the world charging toward them. Everything looked impossible. Everything felt hopeless. But God waited until night, until the moment when human sight failed to split the waters and make a way where there was no way. Paul and Silas prayed at midnight. Their backs were bleeding from the whips. Their feet were locked in stocks. They were sitting in the darkest corner of a Roman prison, falsely accused, unjustly beaten, seemingly forgotten by God. But at midnight, at the transitional hour, they opened their mouths and worshipped. And heaven responded with an earthquake that didn't just open their chains, it opened every chain in that prison. The Passover angel passed at midnight. Death itself waited for the midnight hour. The final plague, the one that would break Pharaoh's grip on God's people, came at midnight. And only those who had applied the blood to their doorposts were protected. Do you see the pattern? Do you understand what I'm telling you? Midnight is not random. Midnight is strategic. Midnight is when heaven separates the faithful from the fearful, the believers from the doubters, the ones who will step into their breakthrough from the ones who will sabotage it at the last second. And right now, you are standing at your midnight moment. November 30th at 11:53 p.m. is your Red Sea. It's your prison floor. It's your doorpost moment. But here's what's breaking my heart. Here's what I need you to understand with every fiber of your being. Most people waste their midnight. They go to bed complaining. They fall asleep rehearsing their problems. They close their eyes, replaying their pain, their disappointments, their doubts. And while they sleep in defeat, their breakthrough walks right past their door. You want to know why some people's prayers seem to hit a concrete ceiling? You want to know why certain believers stay stuck in the same cycles year after year after year? It's not because God doesn't love them. It's not because they're not faithful. It's because they don't understand the power of the midnight moment. What you do at midnight sets the frequency for your morning. Your posture at 11:59 p.m. dictates your position at 12:01 a.m. Think about this. Right now, on November 30th, you have already survived 364 days of 2024. You've made it through the valleys, the storms, the attacks, the disappointments. You're standing one day away from a new month that God has already marked for your breakthrough. One day. But the enemy knows this too. He's been studying your patterns. He's been watching your weaknesses. He knows exactly how to make you stumble right before you cross the finish line. And his favorite weapon is subtle sabotage at midnight. He whispers doubts when you should be declaring victory. He replays your failures when you should be rehearsing God's faithfulness. He makes you focus on what you lost instead of what God is about to release. In those 7 minutes before midnight, every thought you entertain becomes a prayer. Every word you speak becomes a decree. Every emotion you feed becomes a spiritual atmosphere. So let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your soul. What have you been saying to yourself at night? What thoughts have you been entertaining before you fall asleep? What declarations have been coming out of your mouth in those quiet moments when nobody else is listening? Because I'm telling you right now, heaven is listening, angels are recording, and the spiritual realm is positioning itself based on what you believe when the lights go out. This midnight decides your December, not your pastor's prayers, not your family's faith, not some distant prophecy spoken over you years ago. This midnight, November 30th at 11:53 p.m., when you open your mouth and align your heart with heaven's plan, that moment determines whether December becomes your breakthrough month or just another 31 days of the same struggle. Stay with me, because I'm about to give you the exact prayer heaven needs to hear from you before midnight. The specific words that will position you for everything God has been holding in reserve. But first, you need to understand the one mistake that most believers make in those final 7 minutes, a mistake so common, so innocent-looking, that it destroys miracles before they ever arrive. Are you ready to hear what that mistake is? Right now, as I speak these words, there are 2 voices fighting for control of your December. 2 ancient forces locked in combat over your soul. And the voice you listen to in the next 24 hours will determine whether you walk into breakthrough or sabotage everything God has prepared. Can you hear them? Both speaking at once, both claiming to tell you the truth, both demanding your obedience. The first voice is fear, and it whispers with the tone of someone who knows you intimately. It sounds so reasonable, so logical, so protective. It's too late for you. Look at your age. Look at your body. Look at how many years you've already waited. God's used up all the miracles on younger people. Your time has passed. You should have done this 30 years ago. You missed your window. Just accept it. Just settle. Just survive until the end. That voice knows your address, doesn't it? It knows what time you wake up at night staring at the ceiling. It knows the weight you carry when your grandchildren are too busy to call. It knows the shame you feel when you need help opening a jar, when you forget a name, when you realize the world has moved on without asking your permission. But there's another voice, quieter, steadier, deeper. This is the voice of faith. And it doesn't shout. It doesn't have to, because it speaks with the authority of eternity. You're not late. You're right on time. I've been preparing you for 70 years for this exact moment. Every tear was training. Every disappointment was development. Every closed door was protection from something that would have destroyed what I'm about to give you. Now here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for people just like you. Most believers spend their entire lives listening to the wrong voice and calling it wisdom. They mistake fear for discernment. They confuse doubt with humility. They think playing small is the same as being humble. But let me tell you something that's going to shatter everything you've been told about getting older. God doesn't use the young because they're strong. He uses the seasoned because they're wise. Think about Moses, 80 years old when God called him to deliver a nation. The world would have put him in a nursing home. But God said, "Now you're ready. Now you understand suffering. Now you know that it's not your strength, it's mine." Think about Abraham, 75, when God called him to leave everything and start fresh. 99, when God renewed the covenant. 100, when Isaac was born. The world said he was finished. God said he was just beginning. Think about Sarah, 90 years old, laughing at the impossibility of bearing a child. But Genesis 21:1 says, "The Lord did for Sarah what he had promised, not when she was young, not when it made sense, when it required a miracle that only God could perform." You see, beloved, the enemy wants you to believe that your age disqualifies you, but your age is exactly what qualifies you for what's coming, because what God is about to release requires someone who's been tested by fire, someone who's learned to trust him in the dark, someone who can't take credit for the miracle because everyone knows you were too old, too tired, too broken for it to be anything but God. But here's the battle happening right now on November 30th. Fear is screaming its final arguments. You don't have time left. Your body is failing. Your mind isn't what it used to be. You're a burden to your family. You should just fade quietly into the background. And if you listen to that voice, if you agree with that voice, if you make decisions based on that voice in the next 24 hours, you will abort what God scheduled to be born on December 1st. Because here's what fear does. It doesn't just discourage you. It makes you do things. It makes you say things. It makes you give up on things. It makes you pull back when God is saying push forward. It makes you shut down when God is saying open up. Job 3:25 says, "What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me." Do you understand what that means? Fear isn't just an emotion. It's a prophecy. It's a declaration. It's you telling the universe what you expect, and the universe saying, "Your wish is my command." But faith operates differently. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Faith doesn't need to see the blueprint. Faith doesn't demand a guarantee. Faith hears God's whisper and says, "That's enough." Right now, in this moment, you're standing at the crossroads of these two voices. And I need you to understand something with crystal clarity. If you obey fear, December will look like more of the same. More disappointment, more feeling forgotten, more wondering if God remembers your address, more watching everyone else get blessed while you sit on the sidelines. But if you obey faith, if you silence every doubt, every logical argument, every reasonable concern, and you say, "God, I don't understand how, but I trust you," December becomes your resurrection month. December becomes your suddenly. December becomes the chapter your grandchildren tell their grandchildren about. Proverbs 23:18 promises, "There is surely a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off." Not maybe, not possibly, surely. Your hope will not be cut off. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. You have 24 hours, just 24 hours before December begins. And in those 24 hours, fear is going to throw everything at you. Every memory of past failures, every statistic about your age, every doubt about whether you heard God correctly. The question is, which voice will you trust? Because, beloved, the mistake that destroys your December breakthrough isn't some big, obvious sin. It's not robbery or murder or adultery. It's simpler than that. It's quieter than that. It's more subtle than that. The mistake is believing you're too late when God is saying you're right on time. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly in the silence of your own heart. Which voice have you been listening to? And which voice are you going to obey in the next 24 hours? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what happens when you choose wrong. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul through the next 24 hours and beyond. First, November 30th is not just another date. It's your final checkpoint before God releases what He's been preparing for your entire life. The voice you obey today, fear or faith, will determine the December you walk into. Second, your age is not your disqualification, it's your qualification. God has spent 70, 80, 90 years refining you, testing you, preparing you for a breakthrough so magnificent that only someone with your scars, your wisdom, your endurance could handle it. Third, the mistake that destroys breakthrough isn't obvious. It's subtle. It's believing the lie that you're too late when God is declaring you're right on time. But hear me clearly. You are not walking this path alone. The same God who called Moses at 80, who opened Sarah's womb at 90, who gave Caleb his mountain at 85, that same God is working in your life right now. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't passed you by. He's been positioning you. And beyond God's presence, you have this community. Thousands of believers just like you, carrying the same calling, fighting the same battles, believing for the same breakthrough. We're here. We see you. We will pray with you. So, let me ask you one final question that will echo in your spirit long after this video ends. What will you do in the next 24 hours that proves you believe God more than you believe your circumstances? Now, before you go, join me in this prayer. Wherever you are, place your hand on your heart and receive these words. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul hearing my voice right now. Lord, you see them. You know their struggles, their fears, their secret tears at 3 a.m. You know the weight they carry, the battles they fight, the moments they've wanted to give up. Father, I pray you would silence every voice of fear speaking over their lives, shut down every lie that says they're too old, too late, too broken. Replace those lies with your truth. Speak life over their December. Release the breakthrough you've been holding in reserve. Give them supernatural strength for the next 24 hours. Guard their hearts from sabotage. Guard their mouths from speaking doubt. Guard their minds from agreement with the enemy. Let them feel your presence right now, your hand on their shoulder, your breath in their lungs, your peace flooding their spirit. Remind them that they are loved, they are chosen, they are never alone. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, I need to hear from you. Comment below and tell me, what is God preparing you for in December? What breakthrough are you believing for? Don't hold back. This community will surround you with prayer. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now who's standing at the same crossroads, and they need to know they're not alone. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Your breakthrough journey is just beginning, and we're walking it together. Thank you for staying with me through this entire message. Your time is precious, and you chose to invest it in seeking God's voice. That decision alone proves you're ready for what's coming. Go in peace. Go in power. Go in the unshakable knowledge that your December is already written in heaven's book. God bless you, chosen one. Your greatest chapter starts tomorrow.